AMD just reported earnings and the stock is up over 4% after hours. On today's episode, I want to do a very quick overview of the earnings and some of my thoughts. If this is your first time here, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, check out the pinned comment for free Discord, free newsletter, and a lot of great investing links. So let's get started. Like I mentioned, AMD right now just reported earnings and the stock is up 4.33% after reporting its first quarter results. The earnings call is expected to happen in an hour or so, and if there are any major updates, I will make a new video, but we do get a lot of great insight from their current reports. We can see record quarterly revenue of $5.9 billion and it grew 71% year over year. They also did grow their gross margins by about 2 percentage points and their non-GAAP gross margins by over 7 percentage points. This is also the first quarter being impacted by the Xilinx acquisition, and that did kind of move a few things around. For example, if we exclude Xilinx from the financial results, revenue was only up 55%, only 55% opposed to 71% year over year, and only up 10% quarter over quarter instead of 22% quarter over quarter. Their non-GAAP gross margins would have been 51%, up 5 percentage points year over year and 1 percentage point quarter over quarter. So this is a company that is a lot stronger with Xilinx, but it's a company that would have done amazing even without the acquisition. Some other cool things that I do want to mention for their financial highlights is they did repurchase about $1.9 billion of stock, and they have about $8.3 billion in remaining authorization. And this is very important because the amount of shares being diluted after that Xilinx acquisition makes these repurchases very important, and something we're going to take a closer look at later in this episode. The CEO of AMD, Dr. Lisa Su, did mention some great things. Each of their business grew by significant double digits percentage year over year, and led by their EPYC server processors revenue more than doubling for the third straight quarter. This is insane. Something I have been mentioning in these videos is how their AMD EPYC processors continue to be adopted heavily by big cloud providers. We continue to see that with another third straight quarter of over 100% growth in that department. If we take a quick look at their two segments, the first is the computing and graphics segment, and that was up 33% year over year, driven by Ryzen and Radeon processor sales. Up 8% quarter over quarter, driven by their strong Ryzen sales. So their processors continue to be pretty strong. One of my favorite things this quarter is they did release a new desktop CPU with AMD's 3D V-Cache technology. This is the first and something we might start to see in later generations. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and keep listening for this great offer we have for the community. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investments. So I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you a discount for one of my favorite services The Fool offers, The Motley Fool Stock Advisor. Go to fool.com/Jose to sign up and get access to a ton of expert stock picks. Every month you'll get 2 new picks that are aimed at growing your wealth and to help you realize your financial goals. Stock Advisor has been a market-beating service, so what are you waiting for? Thanks again for The Motley Fool. Now on to today's points. If we take a quick look at their next revenue generator, it's the enterprise embedded and semi-custom. That was $2.5 billion, up 88% year over year and 13% quarter over quarter, driven by record EPYC, that is their data center server processor, and their semi-custom and embedded revenue. It's pretty interesting to note that this enterprise embedded and semi-custom segment is only $300 million less than their computing and graphics segment. This is something we've been talking about here too, where consumer spending is obviously very important, but it's not as heavy as it was in the past. Obviously, the consumer market is still a major market for AMD, but the enterprise continues to grow in the amount of money they spend in semi-customs. Here we can see net income was up year over year, $786 million this quarter compared to $555 million a year ago. That was up 42%. In forms of cash and short-term equivalents, the company has about $6.5 billion right now. That is great, especially with the amount of money they're using to buy back shares. They also have total debt of about $1.8 billion right now. That is up a nice amount year over year and quarter over quarter, but it has to do a lot with that Xilinx acquisition. If we take a quick look at numerical values, that was an increase of about 1.5 billion in debt, but an increase of about 3.4 billion in cash and cash equivalents. Some other highlights this quarter were, once they did announce that they are in a definite agreement to acquire Pensando for approximately $1.9 billion. And this is going to introduce them into the DPU market, which is going to be increase their overall semiconductor solutions. Like I mentioned, they also announced the 3D V-Cache technology, not only in their consumer products, but also in their kind of server processors. We can see that AMD's EPYC processors continue to be heavily adopted. In this quarter alone, Microsoft, Google, and Amazon all increased the amount of kind of workloads being used by AMD's processors. Finally, not only earnings were great, but the overall guidance are also super strong. The company right now for the second quarter expects revenue of about 6.5 billion plus or minus 200 million, and that's roughly a 69% year over year growth and 10% quarter over quarter. For the full year of 2022, AMD now expects revenue to be approximately 26.3 billion, an increase approximately of 60% over 2021. Their previous guidance, obviously their previous guidance did not include Xilinx, was only a 31% year over year growth. But they're saying that it's not just Xilinx, it's also the overall semi-custom revenue and their overall server sales as well. So earnings were great, and the overall results for guidance were also pretty interesting. I do want to say, as an investor, just one thing to really keep an eye out is the dilution of shares right now. We can see about a quarter ago, quarter four of 2021, this company had about 1.2 billion shares. Now at the end of quarter one, they have about 1.4 billion shares, and they estimate by the end of quarter two of 2022 to be about 1.6 billion. But they do expect their 2022 to be about 1.5 billion shares. So they share this in, I believe, one of their last PowerPoint presentations, so definitely go check that out a little bit more. But that's why it is very important for this company to have a nice amount of buybacks, because you don't want to see this increased dilution. Obviously they just absorbed a new company, so it makes sense for it to kind of dilute a bit, but still, just something to keep in mind out. Earnings were great, not planning on selling. If price points go down, I am thinking about buying more and more AMD. Really enjoying the company, so take care, have a good day, and see you next time.